how can we understand the aesthetic experience resulting from curating art in online synthetic worlds? What kind of artistic and non-artistic values and interactions may these networked exhibits incite? Hi everyone, we are Hora, Karyne Berger, Miertschink, and Larissa Pereira. We are members of the research group Fresta, in activity at the Federal University of Espírito Santo, Brazil. In this video, we will give you a summary of our research in progress, involving studies on aesthetic experience, post-digital media, and curatorial practices in virtual platforms, here associated with the concept of metaverses. Our current projects are funded by FAPES, the Espírito Santo State Foundation for Innovation and Research Support. In line with post-structuralist and systemic approaches in media studies and art theory, we consider that cultural objects depend on discursive and material frameworks to be conceived of and communicated as artworks. At the same time, this same informational process may bring about the reconfiguration of their operational structures, establishing a critical and creative loop of differentiation. Emerging from institutional critique practice and theorizations extended to media art, this ongoing and changing contextual performativity turns out to be even more prominent when considering the system of art in the age of its virtual networking. For connectivity becomes the constitutive foundation of artworks that exist as informational flows, as Christian Paul argues. In turn, metaverses encompass various aspects of their technological, social, and economic conditions. They compose a territory for observing what Annette Decker has named as networked co-curation, practices of exhibition combining subjective, collective, technical, and non-human actants. Next, we will discuss some features of two different approaches to art curating in virtual platforms. In the first part, our presentation will be focused on two examples from the last Zhejiang Biennale. This show articulates itself as a network of virtual and physical exhibitions of digital art. In its last edition, the project included spaces of virtual immersion structured on various platforms. As examples, we mention projects such as Notland on Simmer.io and My Mother Was a Computer on New Art City. Following, our attention will be given to the sandbox building MMO game Akpyra Walls, that entitles itself as an artverse. The game gathers images from museums' collections licensed by agreement or available in public domain, in addition to original pieces sent by artists. Interactions encompass the exhibit space's configuration and the acquisition of artworks freely chosen by players or oriented by the artificial intelligence named Daisy. This algorithmic assistance enhances the gameplay, as every participant may perform as a gallery curator. Yet, AI's recommendations also present the risk of reinforcing taste patterns within the community of players.
Along with shows presented in physical venues, the Zhejiang Biennale is known for its network of curated virtual pavilions. In these simulated settings, the biennale presents digital art in its native medium, replacing walls and large screens with internet browsers. This results in remote accessibility, from anywhere, by anyone, in a decentralized format, embracing internet communicative features to conceive an art exhibition without borders. This exhibition format challenges art criticism, which needs to adapt to the virtual space, and relates directly to current forms of art consumption, whose impact exceeds the production of contemporary art. From November 2021 to May 2022, the Rung Number 5 included pavilions and spaces of virtual immersion structured on various platforms. Notland and My Mother Was a Computer were two examples of over 140 virtual exhibitions presented at the last Rung Biennale. Notland is a Russian-Swiss project, coordinated by FFTN and Casey Gallery, with the support of Pro Helvetia Swiss Arts Council. Adopting software as an artistic medium, the project contains works by 4 artists, displayed in a virtual space designed as a computer game. Through this pavilion, visitors can access the project's website, where information on the artists, artworks, and the curatorial project itself is available. Notland is identified on its own website as a not game, despite having its access possible through the Simmer.io platform, a site that allows game developers to easily upload their games to access through web browsers. Inside the Not game, visitors can walk along the few artworks of the virtual exhibit, exploring in first-person perspective a virtual space for art experiments. There are no social features, meaning there is no way of interacting in real time with other visitors. This contradicts the common conception of a metaverse, if we were to disregard interaction through the exhibition device itself, resulting from the artworks and their expographic arrangement. Nonetheless, the 4 pieces or art zones implement the project's proposal as they merge with the virtual landscape, embracing visuals and sounds in the immersive experience. Embedded artwork information, however, is lacking in the virtual exhibit, which takes users back to the project's website. In its turn, My Mother Was a Computer exhibition displays artworks of varied mediums from 8 emerging artists on New Art City, a platform that functions as a virtual gallery for digital art. The virtual gallery features a chat space with random usernames for visitors, who can also leave notes on a guestbook and share screenshots from the exhibit. Furthermore, a 2D representation of My Mother Was a Computer is available with catalog view on the New Art City platform. My Mother Was a Computer is built in a tridimensional virtual space, navigated vertically in first-person perspective and designed to evoke the digital nature of the featured objects. This digital landscape is clouded, urging visitors to draw closer to properly view the exhibited works, as opposed to what happens within the constraints of traditional galleries and museums. Information on artworks and artists can be found by hovering the mouse over or clicking on the object in view. Thus, My Mother Was a Computer elicits the relations between digital and physical spaces, experiences, and behaviors.
Akpyra Walls is a sandbox building AI-driven MMO game developed by the startup company Cultura Ex Machina in London. Entitled as an artiverse, the game gathers images from museums in addition to original artworks sent by users to a platform named Cultura. The participants can build and curate their own galleries with art pieces of their choice. The artificial intelligence Daisy helps the player only by recommending images of artworks according to their personal taste for art. It has no participation in the building gallery process. The Cultura platform hosts all the in-game images of artworks and their metadata. It has social media features such as like, share, comments, and also board creation, which allows the players to organize their collection in different folders. An important detail about Cultura is its search bar. This feature doesn't exist in the game because all artworks are supposed to be equal in terms of appreciative value. It prevents established names in the history of art from being more searched than emerging artists, allowing the AI to do the recommendations based on the player's choices. The artificial intelligence is present both in-game and in Cultura. The AI named Daisy is the recommendation algorithm that first presents the most in-game popular artworks. In other words, it functions like Spotify's and other social media's algorithm. After choosing an artwork image, the Find Similar option is shown. The AI works on filtering similarities patterns in order to recommend images that are visually alike to the selected one. Hence, it learns the player's taste and preferences. The AI assistance enhances the gameplay but also presents the risk of reinforcing taste patterns. Lefmanovich talks about how AI has become a mechanism for influencing and predicting our aesthetic decisions and likes, and I quote, guiding us towards choices preferred by the majority. However, in Akpyra Walls, the player can decide to find artworks visiting other players' galleries, avoiding the use of AI. The game has more than 2,000 architectural assets available for building galleries. Players can make collabs and build together. They can also put portals in their galleries that lead to other players' spaces, and sometimes contests on building galleries are promoted in the game. This interactivity doesn't let Akpyra Walls fit the category of a virtual museum. Virtual museums are professionally created spaces and usually mimic the possibilities for exhibiting in physical settings. Even though there are examples where virtual exhibitions are surrealistic and don't copy reality, they don't give autonomy to the player to interact and modify the environment. According to Milena Jokanovic, tours designed by someone else's mind don't invite the visitor to research on their own. Thus, they lose interest because the visit is not involving deeper mind processes. Even though Akpyra Walls gives more freedom to the players, the platform is still limited to 2D images as artworks, if we're not counting the galleries and the initiatives to build sculptures with the game assets as artworks. Therefore, virtual independent museums allow a greater variety of artistic languages if compared to Akpyra Walls. All of this contributes to discussing immersion, aesthetic experience, and online curation issues.
Art curating in virtual settings challenges traditional notions about aesthetic experience and their corresponding influences on the system of art. Metaverses like exhibits expand the diversity and scale of objects, structures, and interactions which both constitutes and derives from the artwork's presentation devices. They also tend to offer larger collections and more inclusive opportunities for emerging artists to show their work. With virtual pavilions, the Rung Biennale potentially can be the largest art biennial in number of visitors. Besides, its open and collaborative system allows the public to choose their paths of interest, exploring many formats and concepts, joined by various curatorial proposals. This is what we can see when comparing the Notland and My Mother Was a Computer pavilions. The former proposes an individual immersion with interactions with objects and the environment, whereas the latter includes social interactions features. Occupy White Walls operates with a radically open logic, in which established institutions, professional artists, curators, and a multitude of amateurs can contribute. For such comprehensive participation to be viable, the platform involves community collaboration and artificial intelligence in its gameplay. The exploration of emerging curatorship paradigms inside Occupy White Walls can be problematic, considering its vast quantity of galleries and images. The excessive amount of resources can put the construction of exhibition spaces in the foreground, leaving off the discovery and contemplation of artworks, so that they become just decorative pieces in the galleries. These are some questions that we intend to address during our research. Thank you for your attention.